Good morning. Hi, I'm Frank Messina, and this is the February 6, 2024 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. Somebody's got a cell phone that we're going to take care of. Thank you very much. So the rest of everybody, turn them down. We'll shut them off. Anyway, again, this is the February 6, 2024 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. Before we start, I have some messages that we have to read. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Don't see any notice. Thank you very much. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 30A-20, until March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. Reminder that persons who would like to listen to the meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. Conference ID 839-790-586, hashtag. Or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, while this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Okay, we have all the members here, including our alternate. Unfortunately, Mr. Burlingame had to step out for a minute, but we'll proceed with the roll call, and when he returns, we'll just acknowledge it. Vice Chair Bob Lear.
Here.
Steve Burlingame, not here this second. Don Aikman.
Here.
Stephanie Hamilton.
Here.
Sandy Porter.
Here.
Janet Tennyson.
Here.
Alternate Robert Stevens.
Here.
And the chair, Frank Messina, is here. So we do have a quorum, and unfortunately, Robert, when Steve comes back, he'll assume, and we'll have all members of the commission discussing and voting. As an alternate position, the alternate can engage in all the discussions, except he just doesn't ever vote in the proceedings. And I see Mr. Burlingame making his way. Mr. Burlingame, are you here?
I am here.
All right, there we go.
What's going on?
Okay, we have minutes, and then I want to discuss the agenda. The minutes are from January 16, 2024. I think everybody was here except Steve and Stephanie. Any comments, additions, deletions? Yes.
It says that I voted for us to adjourn, and since I wasn't here, I couldn't do that.
Okay, I think we got that. Any other comments or questions? Can I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
Accept the minutes
Second?
with their change. Mhm.
And any other questions? Okay, we'll do a roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Steph?
It wasn't here.
Abstain? Sandy?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes,
And Robert?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, and the chair votes yes. All right, we dispensed with that. On the agenda, we have 3 applications, and then we have some minor new business stuff on administrative review and some minor old business stuff, so it should go pretty quickly. I want to discuss the 2023 annual report, which you got a copy of, and also you have in your packet a copy of the Preservation Awards applications, and we'll talk more about that. This is not a vote per se, but just a discussion with the other members of the commission. I would like to hear first 24001 172 Barcliff, and then Mr. Litchfield, if you don't mind, I'm going to switch another applicant in front of you just to move things along quickly. Okay, so we will hear 24001, 172 Bartcliff, which will be heard in accordance with Chapter 158. Is somebody here, or? Oh, there you go. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Just introduce yourself and we
So-
can get started.
Yeah, my name's Todd Murphy, and I'm here to represent Marty McDonald, who owns the property 172
Just do me a
Barclay.
favor, speak a little bit closer to the mic, yeah.
Yeah, how's that? Better?
Better for me, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
So are you the contractor or what?
Yeah, we're representing Marty, yeah, and we're working on the project for him.
Okay,
That's
let me
proposed.
just
Yeah.
quickly
Yeah.
note for the record, this, there is a Form B on the property. Obviously, it's done, a Form B, but it is not located in the National Register. All right, so why don't you proceed and give us a little heads up of what you're planning to do?
Do I have a pointer? Is there a pointer? Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, all right, thank you, yeah. So the lower image is the front of the house, and that, just to give you the history of the home, and there's a write-up on that that I put in the packet, that the house was back in 1900s, 1923, they're saying that it was built. And that house was moved from, the story is the house moved from the town of Chatham in the 40s, and they walked it down the street, and they actually put the house there in the northeast corner of Barcliff and Mouse Hole Lane. And so what we'd like to do is the front of the house, we'd like to preserve that and keep that the same. And when Marty bought the house back in 2008, he, over the years, as he has come up with ideas how to make the house look a little bit better. And because the back of the house, which I'll show you later, has had an addition put on back in the 50s and 60s, but there's no record of when that was done. But we kind of have a feeling, looking at the material, that it was built in the 50s and 60s. So, which is that portion right there that you see in there, and this is the new portion that is going to be built. But this will stay the same, and the front will stay the same, and the sides will stay the same, and just to preserve that historic look, which they say it's kind of like a Greek revival, but doesn't have all the characteristics of a Greek revival house. So, well, as you go down Mouse Hole Lane, I think if you can flip the image to another. So if you go down, go back one, please. Yeah, so if you go down Mouse Hole Lane, Mouse Hole Lane would be here. And so as you come down the street, the front of the house we were looking at was 24 feet. And so what we'd like to do is as we go down, we'd like to keep that same 24 feet across the front to kind of mirror the image of the front and bring that around to the side of Mouse Hole Lane. And then we have a link building that's going to connect the garage, and there is a garage there now that we're going to demo, and the portion of the house is going to be demoed that has the flat roof and that louver porch that you saw yesterday. So we'd like to link the new addition with the link building. When you walk in, there'll be a vaulted ceiling inside, and then and a balcony and a bathroom in this area in here, and then it walks into the garage. Now the stairs that will go up into a guest room with an ensuite, and then on the back side there'll be a little bit of entertainment area that overlooks the pool in the backyard. So this portion here will have a kitchen on this side and a living space. There'll be all wide open upstairs. There'll be a guest quarters with an ensuite, and then the master on the back side, and then that'll have a view of the pool also in the backyard. The windows on the home We're always been a 2/1 window, and we would like to, which we have now, replaced in the front of the house, this portion, just to keep that historic look. And then the rest of the house will have the 2/1. We'll have, we put these single windows here with the 2-pane to match up with these through the top, and then the same on the garage to keep that same historic look all the way through that, and also keeping the trim the same with that similar Greek Revival look. So any questions?
Well, okay, well, thank you very much. Let me just note a couple of things before we get into the actual design.
Yeah.
As noted, this house has a Form B, original date of construction 1923. As you said, you know, the form style is what they call no style, but
Yeah.
still, 161, you know, Barcliff is a street which unfortunately we're familiar with some significant changes that are going on, but it's a very nice street in terms of the about 100-year-old homes, and the size and the, you know, the massing of it is, which in my opinion is consistent with what's on the street. The first thing we do, and I don't think there's any objection from your part, is we're going to make a determination relative to the historical significance of the house. So unless anybody has an objection, a motion to affirm the historical significance of 172 Barcliff?
Sorry, I just have a question. I'm looking for
Sure.
the Form B at the moment, but the Form B, when you did mention yesterday the house being moved in 1941, but there's no reference at all to that in the Form B. I just wondered, you probably don't know why, but I'm curious as to how could that be missing?
Yeah, Marty actually told me the story, and it was the neighbors across the street, which is 175 Barcliff, which I worked on. And he had talked to the neighbors, and over the years, that the story was that house lived next to the Wayside Inn, and they pulled that off and moved that down around the corner, and I think it was for the sheriff that was in town, so they
That's great.
so they moved that either through the golf course or around the street. I can't remember. Marty had said they had trouble going one way and they went another. So, but there is no write up. But it's just through the history of the town members talking about it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Motion?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
The peaks, are they the same height? The peaks, are they the same height?
Yeah, all the way across the peaks will stay. That right here it shows that it's not, but that will be consistent all the way across. We have to stay within that elevation for the building code.
Thank
So
you.
that will be consistent throughout. Yeah.
okay, focusing back on historical significance?
Okay, ready? I move that Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 172 Barcliff Avenue is historically significant because it is in whole or in part 75 years old or more, and it is associated with historical persons or events of the town, and possesses some architectural value or significance in terms of its period and style.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion from members of the public? Thank you. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, that's a two-parter here. Okay, first, we determine whether it is historically significant. If we determine it's not historically significant, then we say thank you for coming and send
Okay.
you on your way. But the next question, if there is any questions relative to what is proposing and whether or not there's any deterioration in the historical significance. Yes, Don?
I'd just like to comment the fact that it's been pointed out to us many times that there needs to be a differentiation between the old and the new. And there's a good example of the differentiation because of it's not set in, but it's set out, the addition. So good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Any other comments, questions?
I
Sandy, you got a question?
do. Could we look at
Talk into the microphone, Sandy, good.
could we look at the first picture of the front of the house? There's I'm sorry, of the drawings, isn't there a porch on the other side? As I stood and looked at it.
You drawing, not a picture?
There's no porch. All right, the porch I'm looking at is the front. All right,
It's the front.
okay.
Is there a number on the drawing, Sandy?
No, it was just the first drawing that
Oh,
went up.
on the building plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Okay,
Yep, I'm good. Thank
all
you.
right, great.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready for a motion. I think feels it'd be a consensus. Bob? Motion to accept?
Clarify that print is a little small for my old eyes, but the date.
Bob?
The date of the
The
application?
date of the application is, I think, March 14th,
Got that, Christina?
2023.
What's the official date, Christina?
Well, it's in in the right column there on the drawings, there's this,
March 15th, 2023.
right.
Okay,
Mine shows 14th, but is that right? Right-hand side of the page?
I have both dates also. The cover page says the 15th, and then the other pages say the 14th.
Well, there's also one that says January
I also see
6th,
that.
2024.
And I have a January 5th also, so,
well, why don't we go with the March 13th date?
I would go with the January 2024 date as probably the most
Oh, okay,
recent
fine.
set.
Okay.
And we'll date all the drawings accordingly.
Okay.
It's a problem. People don't like putting dates on things. Anyway, go.
All right, the Chatham Historical Commission also finds the proposed work to be done dated January 5th, 2024, will not materially diminish the historic significance of the building, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Second?
Okay, any other comments or question? Any member from the public wish to speak for or against the application? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Lear.
What?
I'm sorry, I jumped. Go ahead, Bob. Yes?
Oh, yes,
Thank you.
I missed the roll call part.
Yeah, okay. It's all right. It's early. Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. And thank you very much for keeping the streetscape, and good luck on that.
All right, great, thank you.
You know, we do have something called the Chatham Preservation Awards. We have one going on. There'll be another one in another year or two. So it's might something you want to consider in putting an application, because I think you're doing a very, you know, if it turns out the way you're looking at it, nice job in maintaining that historic structure. I mean, you know, everything doesn't have to be 1700, you know, to be historic in the town. 100 years old is good enough, you know.
That's
so,
old, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Consider it.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. As I said, we're going to jump ahead. 24003. Thank you. 15 Great Hill Road. Be heard in accordance with Chapter 158. There we go.
Good morning. I'm Rob Cicchetti, representing Robert and Anne Marie Gallis, here for a dormer over a garage space. Members were there yesterday to review.
And you are, again, the builder, or?
Yeah, I'm the builder.
Okay, and I'm sorry, your name again is?
Robert Cicchetti.
Okay. It's a nice name.
Thank you.
All right, why don't you just, it's kind of straightforward. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the site visit yesterday, but I think most of the other members may have done so. So why don't you just give us a quick overview of what you're planning to do?
Yeah, so the Work is within this roof line here. We're just adding that shed dormer with the 4 windows, 6/6, to match the existing windows of the house. Like for like, everything will appear the same. In the rear, the same condition, 4 windows across the back, just to capture some of the space, make it more useful.
I just got confused myself. The front, that's the front of the house.
Yes, yeah, front elevation and then rear elevation is what's shown.
Picture you provided-
Microphone.
Sorry, I was a little confused.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, didn't press the button. The picture you provided,
Yes.
that's the same front that I'm looking at?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I guess I confused myself because the drawing, it looks like it's a garage entrance. It's not.
Yeah, it was drawn with the old elevation. They used the existing drawings. At one point in time, the homeowner removed the garage doors and put in sliders.
Okay, so it's windows.
It is. It's as it's pictured
So
there.
if you go to your next drawing, your first drawing, yeah, I'm not looking at the garage door.
No, you're not.
Okay, just
No.
the way it's drawn.
Yes.
And I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead. Janet?
So are we determining historical significance at this point? Frank, are we determining historical significance?
Well, we will. I'm sorry, I just had a confusion question. Thank you.
Because the gentleman explained yesterday that it was moved from Wellfleet. This house was moved from Wellfleet and evidently built in 1933. But, and the garage part was just a much later addition.
Yeah, that was
So-
done in 2001.
2001,
Yes.
so,
It's interesting, there's 2 applications
Yeah.
with structures that have been moved.
yeah. So
Well,
I
it looks
don't-
like thank you. It looks like our preservation consultant, when he reviewed it, he didn't feel it was worthy of a Form B, nor a survey and all that. Well, it's,
What do you think?
pardon?
What do you think?
What do I think? I don't know. It's a tough one. I think there's probably a lot of history in every house, but I don't think the way this house presents itself that it is historically significant. That's my opinion, but I'm just one person. So, anybody else want to pipe in a relative historical significance?
I agree that it is not historically significant, other than, I mean, it qualifies because of its age, but I don't think it meets any of the criteria from the bylaw.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, if any member of the public wishes to speak relative to the historic significance of the property? Seeing none, I think we could probably move pretty quickly. Bob?
I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 15 Great Hill Road is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional criteria in section 158-2, A, B, or C of the bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Second.
Second by Janet. Any other comments? Any member of the public wish to speak? Thank you. We'll do a roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much for your attempt to at least keep the house in an interesting way and structure, but relative to historical significance, we kind of err the other way. So
Okay.
good luck.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time.
Okay.
That's an interesting application because, our good old administrative review process, it just goes over the line, in terms of just doing it from an administrative review, so, but still. Okay. 2 down, 1 to go. Application 24002, 162 Shore Road. You heard under Chapter 158, demolition delay bylaw. I just would note for the members of the commission and the public, if anybody looked at it, the application, I had some email conversation with Mr. Litchfield relative to some additional information that might be useful to the commission members, and he did provide that last night. Thank you very much. And that information was provided to you this morning, so you do have another packet. Unfortunately, it's another 20-some pages. But having said that, this is there is a Form B on the property, and it has actually been before the commission. I don't believe that's correct, Christina. You'd say it has not been before the commission.
I could not find a file on it.
Yeah,
I can speak to that, Mr. Chairman. Be happy
okay,
to.
good. So, all right, so, Mr. Litchfield, why don't you formally introduce yourself, and we'll proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Tom and Michelle Jennings, who through a trust own the property at 162 Shore Road, which consists of an acre or so of land. With me are Tom McNeil and Jonathan Fox of Hutker Architects. And Tom Jennings, yes, Tom is here remotely. Unfortunately, Tom was tested positive for COVID, so I thought, he and I both thought you would perhaps not want to see him here this morning.
Absolutely.
Tom and Michelle have since 2015, I think, owned the property next door at 154 Shore Road. They did a very nice job of restoring that. That property came before you when Tom and Michelle bought it. Like many of us, they have long admired the historic house and the windmill on what was for many, many years the Weller property. Some of you may remember Boo Weller, Barbara Weller. Her father purchased the property in the early 1930s, I think, and it was in the family until Tom and Michelle bought it a few years ago. They've seen enough negative changes in their neighborhood and throughout the town generally to be concerned about the future of the historic house and the windmill. And they decided 4 years ago to purchase the property to prevent it from being snatched up by a developer who could outwait a demolition delay, tear down the house, do God knows what to the windmill, and construct something that none of us would particularly want to see. So I'd like to talk to you about the history of the two structures, tell you conceptually what Tom and Michelle would like to do to enhance and preserve the house and the windmill. And then Tom McNeil will give you the specifics on the preservation of the property, of the house and the windmill. Parenthetically, in answer to the chair's back and forth with Christina, you determined back in 2004 that both structures were historic. I represented the Weller family when we came before you in 2004, and
Yeah.
both the windmill and the house patently, obviously, were historic, and you appropriately found that to be the case. I would fully expect you would reiterate that finding or make it again today. I would encourage you to do so because they clearly are historic. And in regard to the additional materials that the chair mentioned, they were filed electronically with your commission back in January, early January. The only reason that we didn't print out the voluminous plans was that enough trees have already died for this project without focusing on the non-historic aspects. So, as to what's there on the ground right now, the house is, for whatever reason, known as the Joshua Y. Burse House. It was built circa 1800 on Waters Street. Mr. Eggman, you're familiar with Waters Street?
I am. That house was on my property.
I had thought that to be the case. It was moved to this location 110 years ago. And what happened when it was moved from, I think Newell Kelly owned it before it was sold to Marion Morris in 1913. What happened to that house when it was moved, and what we propose to do in relocating it is not in the least bit unusual in regard to old Cape houses. It was referenced in the Chatham Historical Society's mid-60s books on historic homes And Form B correctly describes it as a 5-bay full cape, 2 bays deep with a rear lean-to. It rises 1.5 stories, sort of like 1 1/3, because I've been upstairs, from a low foundation to a gable roof with a center chimney offset to the left or west. 2 small windows with fixed 9-pane sash have been inserted above the windows west of the entry. The roof may have been raised to accommodate them, and I think the unusual front or facade suggests that that is indeed the case. The asymmetry with the facade with entry and chimney offset to the west indicates that the house may have been expanded from a half cape early in its history. As noted above, the front roof slope may have been changed. What we are proposing to do is to restore that house, not to when it was a half cape, but to restore it to its early days as a full cape, and to relocate it further up the hill toward Shore Road, so that it becomes what it should be, which is the focus of this property. For reasons into which I won't go right now, but prior owners allowed the hedge to grow up, and you haven't been able to see the house. You haven't been able to see the windmill terribly well for a number of years. And what Tom and Michelle would like to do, with the assistance of Doug Whitla, who will be their builder, with the plans that Hutker and Tom McNeil have developed, is to make the Burris house the focus of Shore Road as you drive up and down. The windmill has an even more peripatetic history. I don't think it was located on the Aikman property. The windmill started down Cockle Cove Road in South Chatham, and it was built apparently circa 1850. It was moved to Catawmet. Insofar as I know, no person from Chatham has ever been to Catawmet, but it's out of the way. It's Falmouth North, and nobody goes there. But the windmill went to Catawmet, and then it was brought back to Chatham around 1913 by Marion Morse, who also brought the Burris house to the location. It was actually, some of you may remember, a third house on the property, which was picked up and moved to Orleans about 40 years ago. Moving windmills on Shore Road is not unheard of. Some of you may be familiar with that concept. So the Jenningses want to preserve and enhance the windmill. They would like to move it out of the flood zone, but have it restored to its original appearance. The old Form B, there are 2 versions of Form B, or of the Historical Commission's comments. One of them notes that in the 1970s, the windmill was used as a tool shed. Tom and Michelle feel that it should not be used as a tool shed and want to restore and enhance it to the prominence that it deserves. So we're not moving it back to Catawmet. We are instead moving out of the flood zone. So Tom and Michelle bought this property with a goal of preservation. They want to restore the salt box to its original form, eliminate the 3-car garage on the west side, eliminate the connecting portion, as well as the part down on the water side, all of which are newer. They want to restore it to its original form by removing those several additions. They want, as I said, to move the windmill out of the flood zone. They've worked extensively over the last 3 years to develop a plan for restoration and to give the 2 historic structures the prominence they deserve. Some of you may recall the house above the fish pier that was part of the Payne estate. It was picked up and moved to South Chatham. Tom and very nice job was done with it in terms of restoration. Tom and Michelle want to do the restoration, but they want to keep it on site. The house has been in this location for 110 years, and they want to make it an appropriately prominent feature of the Shore Road streetscape. It will be next to Ken and Tamara Basil's house, Tall Trees, which was the Joseph C. Lincoln house. They will enhance and preserve for future generations the Burris house and the windmill. The essence of the salt box, the original salt box, will be in a prime location where it belongs, in the original or quasi-original form. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to ask Tom McNeil to talk a little bit about the specifics of the preservation project.
Okay, before we get into that, I think what we need to do, and I don't think there's any argument from your perspective.
None.
Is just reaffirm the historical significance. And it's interesting, you brought up the other fish pier house, and it's moved to South Chatham, and that was another one of our wins in the sense.
Correct.
That it was destined for the dump, and I can't think of the name of the people, but we did give them a
Martinson.
preservation award, and we moved it, we moved it, they paid for it, and it was a move right, all the way from from the Shore Road to South Chatham, and it sits on a very nice plot, doesn't overlook the water, but still, it's a nice way to save it. And yeah, I don't think there's any question relative to historical significance. Interestingly, I believe I met the owner when he first purchased it. He had called and was asking for what could he do, and I remember visiting the property again, and even after the Wellers have it, and the concept of keeping the historic elements of the house on the property, and I'm glad he's moving forward with that. Okay, I think if there's no other comments or questions, we could have a motion for historical significance?
Sure. I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the one of the buildings anyway, located, or two of the buildings, located at 162 Shore Road are historically significant because it is in whole or in part 75 years old or more, and are associated with one or more historical persons or events within the economic and political history of the town, and possesses architectural value or significance in terms of period, style, and method of construction.
I'll second.
Thank you. Bob, I guess we're dealing with both the house and the windmill in that
Right.
motion?
Yes, I did put a plural in there, but we can separate them if you want. I
Very
don't think
good.
that'll,
Okay, any other comments from members of the public? All right, if not, we'll do a quick roll call. Bob?
yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Okay, I guess we can proceed into the
Thank you very much,
presentation
Mr.
relative
Chairman.
to
And
wetland
just
planning.
to put a slight gloss on the Payne house, that was the Martinsons who came before you, if I recall, and I believe I had the pleasure of
Okay.
representing them when they did that. And it was a win for you. One of the differences here,
Martinsons, yes.
for all of us, one of the differences here is that Tom and Michelle want to keep the house where it's been for over 100 years. I know the other people would have liked to have done that too, but they are in a position to be able to do it with the architectural plans of Tom McNeil.
Well, it is a significant piece of property. How large is the property?
About an acre.
An acre.
Once upon a time, it was much larger than that. Much of it is now on the north side of Nantucket.
Thank you. Okay, if you could just introduce yourself formally, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Tom McNeil. I'm from Hutcher Architects. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. So we have somebody joining remotely who can share their screen. That's okay, Jessica Kelly? You can go ahead, Jess, and begin to share. Great. So this is the site plan as it exists today.
Just give us the sheet number, might be easier too.
162 Shore Road. The sheet number, I'm sorry.
Yeah, AO2.
Not the street. Yeah, I think this is probably the first page.
All right,
So just to recap where we are on the site, the 50-foot buffer zone is right here, and the 100-foot buffer zone's right here. And the original salt box portion of the house is right here. And then there was a bunch of additions that were done over time. And then this is the windmill portion of the structure. And I don't know who was there yesterday, but there's actually blades on the windmill that won't rotate because there was an addition built onto the windmill at one point that blocked the rotation of the windmill. So one thing that was important to us was to correct that and make it look authentic as best we can. You can go to the next one, Jess. So you know, when we looked at this property, we felt as though it was really important to preserve the key historical aspects of the project. For one, the architectural significance, but also the community significance. You know, what, this windmill is a visible thing from the coast, but also the road, as well as the salt box previously, before the hedges were built. So going into the project, we always wanted to preserve that, but also develop the property to the point where the owner, you know, can use it for their family. So what we've decided to do was take the original portion of the salt box and preserve that, right? And then all the additions that were done over time through the years, take those off, strip it away, sort of bring it back to its pure form, its pure authentic form. And then take that structure and bring it to the road to give it back to the community, give it to the street, essentially. And then what that does is, it creates a sort of a street front that's an improvement on what's there now, given that there's a large hedge and you really can't see down into the property. We want to move it up to the front of the property and allow for everyone to access it, everyone to see it. And we also want to, along with Doug Whitla, preserve and restore as best we can the historical portion of the building. And then the windmill, obviously, we want to pull it up and out of this 50-foot zone. So we intend to move it up here and also away from the property line by a bit. Jess, you can go to the next one.
Can I ask you, well, all right, why don't you proceed with that one, then I have a couple questions, go ahead.
Sure, yeah. So this is the new location of the salt box, and what we're doing is we're sort of grading the grade behind it so we can hide the cars in an area that's right here and park cars underneath the salt box, underneath the new foundation we're putting in. And then the salt box will be preserved and on top of that. And this is the new location of the windmill out of the 50-foot and also away from the property line, and this is the previous location. So Jess, you can go to the next one now. Did you have a question, Frank?
Yeah, a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
Let me focus on the windmill section. Seems to be one of my, almost as bad as chimneys. So you're physically going to turn the windmill? I mean, the structure. I mean, I know you're showing the blades, but are you going to physically pick up the windmill and turn it?
Correct. Yeah. So the
Okay.
top section of the windmill.
Oh, so just the cap you're going to turn,
Correct.
not the whole windmill?
Yeah, correct. We're not going to rotate the whole thing.
So
just
the windmill,
this-
the cap is movable, like most of them were.
Yeah, correct.
So for some reason, they left it like that. I don't know what, who knows?
It's
So-
very strange. So we intend to rotate it so it looks more authentic and sort of face
Okay.
it back towards Shore Road.
Yeah.
We just,
Well, most windmills, the blades face the southwest, but that's okay. All right. So
Right.
you're gonna just rotate the cap,
correct.
and everything else in the structure remains the same?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right, and the second question, if I may,
Well, just to be clear, so you said remains the same. So we are going to modify the windows around this addition piece, not the
Yes.
original part. And we do intend to modify the windows slightly in the windmill structure itself, which will show you that in the
Okay.
elevations.
now, the so-called original salt box, which I guess goes back to 1800 or something
Yeah,
like that.
1820.
You're demolishing quite a lot of the house, okay? Oh, whatever the house is. Did you date any of those other structures? I mean, I know the garage is relatively new,
Yeah.
but when we looked at it the last time, you know, I think there was a lot of, it may have not have been 1800, but they were pretty old.
Yeah, in the 70s and 90s, I believe it was renovated. So in the 70s and then also again in the 90s. And each section of the house, all of these additions were added on, except for this piece back here, and there was a garage on the property. But all of these have been modified substantially since
Yeah.
then. Like pieces, this roof is essentially new. It comes out much further than it used to. All of this is modified, and all of this is modified in the 70s and through the 90s, between the renovation in the 70s and the 90s.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Jess, next one. So this is the whole property development. Okay, so this is where the windmill, we just saw the windmill isolated. It's moved from that location. The old house.
Can I go back to the previous slide?
Sure. Go back one, Jess. Thanks.
It would seem that the footprint of the house at its new location is substantially different than the footprint of the existing older portion of the salt box.
This footprint right here.
Yeah,
So the overall width is exactly the same, and the back side has been sort of gobbled up by additions over time. So you can't really see where the back side is necessarily here, but we are making it about 1 foot narrower, so on the back edge, right here, than it was previously. So this back wall, based on what we understand of where that back wall, what might have been, we think it's about 1 foot narrower in the current design.
certainly one looks like a square and the other one looks like a substantial,
Yeah, it is much different.
oblong.
You have a
Yeah.
square salt box to a oblong, not oblong. So in effect, we're not
Yeah.
really,
Rectangle.
yeah, I agree with you. It's not,
So is the
well, I guess they have details of it.
the relocated salt box looks to me as a rectangle, substantially different shape.
Yeah.
Why is it grown wider?
It's not wider. So this dimension right here is the exact same width as this front dimension. The back, we took 1 foot off of the back of this. So it would be a longer the proportion would be slightly different by 1 foot.
Why?
That's- Yeah, there's a lot of stuff sort of added onto the back. It's hard to see it.
So you're saying the original salt box is not its original envelope
We're taking 1 foot off the back
of the original?
of the original, correct?
Why?
Well, because we need that area for lot coverage. We're maxed right up against the lot coverage.
For what?
Lot coverage.
Lot
For the
coverage?
zoning lot coverage, yeah.
With all due respect, why don't you reduce the big house?
Right.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you've got an historic house
yeah,
and you're lobbing it off, I hate to use that word,
yeah,
because you're not meeting your zoning.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Historic, zoning, historic.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. If you could zoom into that, that helps show.
There's no reason why
Yeah,
you couldn't move it back with the original configuration.
yeah. So the original wall, we think, is somewhere right here.
We get kind of hung up with loss of historic
Yeah,
materials.
no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think,
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely, yeah,
if there was a really good reason for it, but
yeah,
the duck just came down when you said zoning,
right.
Most people don't know what that means when I
I
say
know,
the duck
yeah.
comes down. Okay. I think that's a problem, an
Okay.
issue.
Yeah,
Let's,
yeah.
all right, let's go on.
Okay, Jess, you can zoom out now. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, so another portion that we are, so I think we can go to the next page. We'll talk more about the whole property, yeah. So this is where the main house is going to be. The salt box is here, and the windmill is located here, completely detached from the new house structure, which takes a shape like this. There's a 2-story section, a single-story vaulted section, and then a 2-story section here.
What sheet number is that? I apologize.
162.
Say again?
162.
Shore
Road.
Looking at sheet A03. Got it, sorry.
Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry, I apologize. Go ahead,
That's
proceed.
okay. Okay, we'll go to the next one, Jess. So the view from Shore Road, right now, this is it, right, from across the road. And it's really, it was valuable to us and important to us to preserve that as structure as best we can, and then re-present it to the road in a better way. So to open up the site to the road so you don't feel like you're walking against a hedge wall. So we can go to this as the before, and then we have a proposed image. Go ahead, Jess. So this is the proposed. So we want to bring in some wildflower and some, hydrangeas and things like that, a lawn, open up the property to the front, to the Shore Road, and we think this is a huge improvement to the property, even if we add that 1 foot back. So
From a historical point of view, is there any truth to the rumor that that hedge was put off to block the neighbors' view? Just was interested.
Because a relocated house would do that.
To respond to the question, which is maybe beyond chapter 158.
Oh, no question. Well, we have the local historian here,
I can simply say that Tom and Michelle have been working with all of their neighbors in the neighborhood closely and carefully and for quite some time. They did not plant the hedge.
No, I know that.
The hedge is going away, and we think that we're not quite across the street from Hydrangea Walk, but we think hydrangeas like that are much better for the town and the neighborhood than the hedge.
Thank you. Sorry, I shouldn't.
it's okay. All right, Jess, you can go to the next one. So this is a view from the south side of the property, looking back towards, right now it's a, about a 9 foot tall, 10 foot tall hedge. Then the proposed view is coming. Here you go, Jess, go to the proposed. So this is proposed. We want to preserve that view down to the windmill. We want you to see it. We think that's important. We also, obviously are opening the view up to the salt box. And we want to preserve this section as authentically as we can. So Jess, you can go to the next page. So here's the original, the salt box, and then there's the, the windmill, and this is where the blades, you can see, don't actually operate because there's a structure there. We go to the next one, Jess. So when we go through this process, we're going to be thinking about historical houses in Chatham and what kind of details they have. I'm particularly fond of sort of the plank frame windows, the shingles, the shingled roofs. Some of these details we intend for them to, not all of them, but some of them inform the new design of the house, right? The proposed house, not even the restoration. The restoration portion of the house, we intend to do it as authentically as we can. That's our intent and our goal. So we went through the town and we looked at different properties and we are just taking cues from them. Not entirely, but some of the details will be inspired, by, we're gonna do plank frame windows like that. We'll be inspired by historical houses. And we intend to, like, when you see the house, evoke the memory of these, but not necessarily replicate them, if that's fair. Next slide.
1 second, if you could.
Sure.
If you go back, yeah. So those are pictures of the house, or?
No. I'm sorry. These are existing historic houses in town.
The Mayo House between the Cape Cod Five and
Okay,
the
good.
former
Look familiar.
Epicure.
All right.
And these are just informing our design. That's all. We're
Now,
just,
the reason I asked that is that I was going back to the Form B for the property that was done by Ms. Vandenberg, Ms. Jenkins, and I'm looking at the photo of it, and it shows the rear roof, I forget the term, architecturally, also not, not completely symmetrical. It goes down beyond, lower, I don't know what that's called.
the salt box.
Salt box?
Yep.
But when the roof is not, what is the back side of that roof called, that way it comes down that slope?
That's the salt box.
So it goes below the first floor.
Yeah, well, yeah, it goes to about in line with the first floor. It
And
stops
that's-
somewhere below a hedge.
And
there.
have you duplicated that for the rear of the house?
We are. Yeah, we fully intend
Okay.
to.
I
do
just
that.
couldn't see it when I was looking at it.
Yeah.
Got a lot of drawings here.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. I
yeah.
figured it was easier to ask you than it was to
Yeah,
turn
no, I
pages.
understand.
All right, so you are going to duplicate that rear. I mean, my concern, quite candidly, is not just the view of the house, not just from front, but from the sides.
From the side.
And to maintain that streetscape.
Yep.
Okay, so you are going to maintain that, and I'll find it when I get to it.
Yeah, we fully intend to keep that shape and physically keep these forms, completely.
But back to the Mr. Burlingame's question,
Sure.
relative to the change in the size and the scale of the sort box. So that's where the foot comes off.
On the very back, yeah, and that's been sort of eaten up over time by additions and things like that. So
I
it's
got it.
not like you can't. It's hard to tell where it is exactly.
Okay.
But yeah,
If I could just comment briefly on that, the traditional salt box went down very low, sometimes to as low as 5 feet in the rear, and is thus not usable. Because of the changes to that section of the house where the kitchen is now, I don't think there are any historical materials left at the rear of the salt box, and that's why I think it is, I understand the concern, but I think it may be less of an issue in terms of loss of historical materials. The feel and the look of the salt box, as shown earlier, is going to be retained, and we all feel strongly about that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And to add to Bill's comment, one concern is maintaining. We have like even a low window height, and we don't want to modify this pitch on the back. We want that to be the same. So one way to reduce the window height is to take a piece of this, or increase the window height rather, is to take a piece of this off. I'd rather preserve the slope of the roof completely than change the slope of the roof or make the space not usable.
Are you asking a question? Janet? Can you hit the microphone, whoever's talking, and speak into the microphone? Sorry, Janet, it was... Whoever's speaking, could you just speak into the microphone, including myself? Yes, Sandy?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
You're going to preserve it, and you're going to preserve the windmill. What are they going to do with it? I mean, is it going to be open to the public? Is it for guests? I'm sort of like.
Sandy, can you go to the microphone, please? Just pull it closer to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I
thank
can hear
you.
now. Thank you.
I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah.
You have a lovely piece of property, and it's going to have 3 homes on it. And this is, I salute you for preserving it. It's a beautiful, salt boxes are one of my favorite style of house. And the windmill too. I just wonder, is it going to be open for people, say on a historic tour to go through? Is it going to be used for an overflow of guests? Is there a proliferation of grandchildren that come to visit in the summertime
hope.
and they would use it?
Yeah.
Well, is your
know,
question,
I'm curious.
what is the use of the,
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious.
well, I think it's going to be a garage.
The basement level will be a garage. So we don't see garage doors and we don't see cars and things like that. We want to hide those behind it, right?
Okay.
But the upper level will be used as sort of hopefully grandchildren and extension.
It will be a family living area.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be family space.
And that, again, the Jenningses feel strongly about utilizing the house rather than tearing it down, making it family-friendly and preserving the facade and the architectural nature of it. Open to the public, no,
I think
they
we're-
love Chatham, but there are limits, there are limits in that
I
regard.
was just kind of curious.
Well, maybe if they,
you
Sandy,
know,
maybe if they apply for a preservation award and we give it, they may allow us to have a brief,
You're going to grind corn with that windmill? Because Frank and I have a vested interest in a windmill in town.
And the windmill has, under the current zoning decision, the most recent zoning decision, it's barred for, and I think Board of Health also, it's barred for use as a bedroom or anything like that, and that
okay.
will continue on. So it is sort of
An outbuilding.
sitting area and nothing more than that, and it will remain
Terrific.
that.
Okay, I was just
Yeah.
curious, that's all. Thank you.
Can I, just one question?
Sure.
Apologize for the comment taken the wrong way when I said a garage. Is the property steep enough that you're going to get the cars underneath the first floor of the house?
Correct. It's very tight, but yes, it is.
Okay.
It does fit. And we think that's a clever use of the building, the space. It hides a lot of the cars so you don't see it. And we're able to do the landscaping and grading on the left and right of it to protect sort of the appearance from the road, so it looks natural, level, like it would have been there. So,
Okay.
thanks. Okay, next slide, Jess. So these are just markers for us. Like, we don't do this without like knowing where we are. We want to inform where we are. That's why we're keeping these buildings in the, we really want to, because we think it's important to the community. So we can go to the next one, Jess. So we added some slides that show the main house portion. So we have a story and a half portion here, story and a half, or story and 3/4, and then a vaulted space in the center. The front side of the house is this one. You come through the front door right there, and then there's basically the kids' wing and the family wing, and the kitchen and living space are over there. And all of these windows, we intend to do the plank frame windows. We want them to sort of evoke the memory of a historic house, and shingles, right? A shingled roof, a shingled walls. And some of those little details we're going to pull from all these beautiful houses around this neighborhood and deploy them here, right? And also what we've learned from the salt box and how the salt box was originally built. We want to deploy those ideas here. You can go to the next one, Jess. So this is the foundation of the salt box on the left, and then the plan of the salt box on the right. If you can go to the next one.
Excuse me, slow down. That's the, on 100?
Yep.
Okay, so that's the garage, and then, as I asked before, that's the first floor on the right.
Correct. Yep, that's the first floor. So this is the main entrance that exists now.
Got
This
it.
is all level.
Okay, good.
All right, Jess, next one. The upper level, we're just utilizing those spaces.
Yeah.
We are keep preserving the chimney on the exterior. We can go to the next view and look at that in elevation.
You're going to move it and not have to take it down, you think? The chimney?
I hope so, yeah. I think if it's in the right condition and good enough condition, it would be great to keep it, but it can't be a hazard, so it needs to be safe. But even if it does get rebuilt, it would be rebuilt to the exact same
Got it.
brick and spec that is there now, in the exact same location. The front, this is what you'd see from Shore Road. The two sides, this is the salt box that we were talking about, Frank.
Yeah.
And we're intending to preserve that, all of those pitches. And this is the back side. So the grade on the front, it sort of drops off, and we drop grade down so we can get into garage doors for the house. Then we're doing one window on the back side. None of this existing wall exists anymore. It's all there's no wall there in the existing house, or there's nothing that exists. It's all gone. So we need to sort of rebuild this to what it was, and then we're adding 3 dormers on the back side of the house.
So what is that? Is that just a wall of glass?
That is a series of windows in the main living space.
And those barn doors, are they sliders or what?
Yep, they're sliding barn doors. Yep. And then the 3 dormers.
How do you access the door, from outside?
It's they're not operable.
Okay, so it's windows and just
Yeah.
barn doors. Well, okay.
Yeah.
I got a little problem with the whole design element of it. Okay,
Okay.
but I guess we could also see the side view of what you're proposing versus what the original salt box was.
Yeah, the renderings might show this a little better.
No, but you can look at it from when you look at one of the other drawings, when you see, you know, what it is, what the original was.
Yeah, you'll be able to
Uniformity.
see this side view.
Got it.
From when you're coming, going north or south down Shore Road.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay, so this is just where the windows were versus where they are now. There was a large sort of picture window that was added to this. I think this must have been in the 90s. That faces the water. That's not facing the water anymore, and we don't think it's an appropriate window to be on the gable end of the salt box. So we're changing that with a single window. This one we're preserving, and then this is where the old one was. We want a little more light inside the space, so we're modifying the windows to those three. And these areas right here is where that's all swallowed up by the existing house. So that's what that red dashed area is. So that's all like not visible today. Okay, Jess, you can go to the next one.
What are the, what's the reason for the small windows on the, let's see, I guess that's the north elevation?
Yep. There's bathroom and things like that over there. Staircase and a bathroom. Just want to bring some light into those spaces and ventilation.
More so than the typical 1/1s or 2/1s?
Yeah, we don't want them to come down low because they're sort of private spaces. And the staircase is also on that side, so it would go below the stair, things like that.
Gotcha.
Okay, Jess, you can go to the next one. So this is the plan of the windmill. We have a completely new foundation, and the rest of the plan we're sort of modifying. I think it's easier to see those in the elevations. Just if you don't mind going to that. Yeah. So here's the proposed elevations for the windmill. The addition piece, which is right here, we intend to modify the windows slightly here, 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 and here. And also modify the shape of this thing. And this piece was added later. It wasn't part of the original windmill. So we are modifying the shape of it on the back side here so we can expose, before it sort of bit into the back side of the windmill further. So we're taking that off so we can preserve more of the windmill original shape. And we're also taking a little space off the back side here to reduce the mass of that, reduce the ridge height and its relationship to the
yeah, that's good.
windmill itself, right? And you can see the windmill blades are rotating in this direction now, sort of facing Shore Road. And there's these small windows that exist in the top part of the windmill, and we're adding a series of small double hung windows around the perimeter of the salt box, every other facet, of the windmill. If we go to the next page, it'll sort of summarize that. Yeah, here it is. So there's a door currently here. We're going to take that out and replace it with a window. We're going to take this window and turn it into a large full-height window, this window and turn it into a full-height window. And then basically complete the idea, right? There was these small windows that went around the perimeter. So we're basically completing the idea and adding one here and then one here on the other side. So every other facet has some fenestration in it. And yeah. So I think we can go to the next page. Jess?
I think that was the first time the term fenestrations has been used
Oh,
in
good.
the Historical Commission.
Good. So there's, this is just a view from across the road. We can go to the next one. This is before.
Right.
And after, we're working with the neighbors to make sure that, we sort of are conscious of what we're building, and the owners have been very respectful to everyone around them, or attempting to be. Next page, yes. So this is it. So this is, Frank, you could see the salt box. We're sort of more straight on, but as you drive down the road, I intend that you're gonna fully see that salt box shape from both sides. That's it.
Well, got the feeling you spent a lot of time on this.
We poured our heart and soul into it, yeah.
It's a phenomenal job, quite honestly, in terms of knowing the property and what you've done. I think I have some concerns, but before why don't we just go around the room a little bit relative to concerns. Steve, Don, you want to start off?
Yeah, I think it's a great look and what have you, but I have a problem with the dormers on the back of the salt box. They look like modern as opposed to historic. And I wonder if that can be made to look much more of a traditional dormer that you'd put on an old house as opposed to a modern look
Good catch.
on this old building.
Okay.
I don't think we're in a position to answer the question right now, but it's certainly something into which we will look.
Yeah.
Okay. Don, how do you feel about this, the shape of the salt box and the move?
I mean, we're talking about a foot. I would think that maybe a foot could be sacrificed from the main house if it's lot coverage or whatever, but by the same token, I know that salt boxes usually come down very low in the back, and there's not a lot of headroom, so
Right.
I can understand the need to maybe take it off.
Yeah.
As opposed to raising the roof, which would not be in keeping with the
Yeah.
old house.
Right. We think it's far more valuable to maintain the pitch of both of those roofs.
I agree.
Steve?
I think it's important to, in terms of the top box and the pitch and whatever, in the dormers in the back, that the three sides that will be visible to the public, or even the neighbors, is appropriate. So lots of houses, we've let people take the water side of their house and be creative with it, as opposed to being very strict in terms of its appearance, because you've done a fine job of maintaining the exposure that the public will see with what you've done. I'd cut you a little slack on the back, as we have with a lot of other people. Nobody's going to see it except you,
Right.
or the owners of the house. I think, I agree with, excuse me, I agree with Frank that if you could make it a little less modern, that'd be a nice touch. But I wouldn't hold the project up because of it. It's just like the garages down below. The garages down below are, you didn't find those under the salt box side of a house. But it's appropriate here.
We appreciate that. We also didn't find plumbing or electricity when this house was built, so we understand your point.
Steph? No comments? Janet? Sandy?
Thank you for preserving.
Thank you.
I'm not crazy about the dormers in the back, but it isn't a showstopper for me. I think that they've done a great job. I love that, you're keeping the angle on the back of the salt box. As I say, it's one of my favorite style houses. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy. Bob? I'm sorry, Bob's. Robert, Bob. Hey, Robert.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Steve and Don on the back of the salt box here. It just looks like too modern. It looks, you walk in you see it from the front and you go, wow, this has been preserved, and then you look around the back and you go, oh, not so much, it's real modern. That's my first comment. Second comment would be having some experience with windmills is the windmill that I'm referring to was, had new windows put in it long before we moved it.
Yeah.
And it just wrecked it. It would just, it'll never be the same if you put modern windows in that windmill. It will look like somebody it'll look like an add-on. So I would urge you to take a special look at the type of windows and the size of the windows
Yeah.
that you're going to do with the mill, because like it or not, you will give some tours.
Yeah.
And to point to modern windows is just
Yeah.
not cool.
Well, we purely, there needs to be sort of a modern performance, but then the fabrication of the windows and how those are made with natural wood, the shape, the profiles, the putty glaze, all of that, I would fully intend for these windows to be built in that way for the salt box and for the windmill. It's an important aspect to us as architects that we don't just put in a Pella window or something into those. It's not, we would be very careful. We intend to be very careful about the windows we choose, the profiles we put there, what they're made out of and how they're made, and the details of how the casing comes into them. All of this is very important to us as architects, me personally, and I completely agree with you. It needs to be done well and done authentically. If you don't do that, it really takes away from the historical aspect of the structure.
I want to just applaud you for other parts of the house that I think you obviously worked really hard at it. And even though it's pretty hard to follow a lot of these plans, I can see you put so much effort in it. And so there's those couple things that I think could really bring it up another level.
Great, thank you.
Bob?
To add to Robert's mention about hard to follow the plans, Mr. Litchfield has probably heard this little routine before, but the page numbers are very confusing in both of the sets we have. There's a bunch of A200s, some of which appear to be the same and some don't, and they don't have labels on what they purport to show us. And as far as I can tell, unless it's tiny print somewhere, they're undated. So that makes it very confusing for us to be on the same page while you're putting your pages up there. And that's why you got some questions about it. But even if you say A200, I've got 6 A200s here. So on a more substantive note, I like what the salt box is having done to it. I do have concerns about the rear, though, in addition to what was mentioned. That massive wall of window, I think you could probably do with 3, maybe 4 largish windows and be much better in keeping with the look than to have whatever that shape is supposed to represent, which will give you as we said in Conservation Commission, you really don't need a panorama of the world. You need some windows there to set things off, not the whole ocean coming in at you. So you might want to consider downsizing the window treatment in the first floor in the back, along with modifying the dormers somewhat. But I still approve.
Thank you. Yeah, this was an interesting one, and again, I just repeat my comments relative to the amount of work you put in the presentation. It's a very simple thing. I don't understand why. Date the drawings 1 through 43, and it's interesting because on the computer, that's how it is. There's 43 pages, and you just turn it. But
Right.
when you start going through the paper, it just makes it a little difficult. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's for the future. But I think when we muddled through, I did anyway, and I apologize for some of my silly questions sometime, but I like to see the drawings and make my own notes. So I had some issues and problems with the applications at first because I was concerned about the streetscape, not just, the salt box, but also the large house at the bottom. And I do appreciate, Bill, that, you know, sending the part two of the drawings, you know, which give us more detail relative to what's happening and what we had with the first 23 pages, which we didn't get, unfortunately, but until last night and this morning. But to be specific, my concern relative to the mass of the house, even though we don't have jurisdiction, that's your zoning issue, you know, the old house, the new house that's
Yeah.
being put there, and the streetscape. I think it's far enough back, you know, from the street, and I think it'll be okay. And quite honestly, I agree with you with your comments about, you know, the design you chose for this new structure. It kind of fitting in. It's broken up enough that it looks like a house that was added to, which is
Right.
typical of Chatham, you know. You build a single for one bedroom for one family, then you add another, you know, back and forth. So I think it's good. I think it'll help, and I think the entire presentation will enhance the streetscape of Shore Road. And it was one of those areas of town which we did do a Form A on, and we thought it should be a National Register site, but just never got to it. And I don't never think it's ever going to happen now, given the ownerships of it over the last 20-some years. But I would like to be specific, and to say that in my view, I would like to, one or two things, to not approve it at this particular point, but conditionally ask you to go back and take a look at those five things that I have, 4 things specifically, and come back with some kind of a revision that meets some of our expectations. You know, we like to use the word showstoppers. Individually, I don't think they're showstoppers that we would, in my opinion, I would deny the application. But by the same token, if you add it all up, I think it's worthy that we take a step back and ask you to give us some confidence that you're going to do that. The issue specifically is the pitch and the size of, not the pitch, but the size of the salt box that you moved it, and the so-called lobbing off of 1 foot, you know, to meet your zoning issue, and if that could be corrected or added. I think Don's comment on the dorms on the rear of the salt box, if that could be reconfigured to be more historically correct. The windmill, the windows on the back of the house, it's kind of massive, and they're really inappropriate from my perspective. Or, you know, so if you could correct that and put some kind of a design which has windows, which was more historic, on the salt box rear, you know, on the first floor above the garage doors entrance. And relative to the windmill, like Robert, myself, and Sandy, some experience with windmills in Chatham, you know, there really were no windows. There were openings. And it was usually a piece of wood that slammed open and slammed
Right.
shut. You know, and I'm not saying, you know, you've got to do that, and I don't know how you could come back to that, but I would ask you just to take a look at it and see if you could do something that's, talk about the windmill itself, especially the second floor of the windmill. Is that going to be an area where people were going to be on that second floor?
No.
So you could make it not a window. I mean, you could make it with a, you know, just which a typical thing, which is, you want to take a look, go look at the 1797 Godfrey windmill. You know, you look up top, you see a hole, and you see a board would open and close. Something like that would be, in my opinion, you know, very nice and more historically appropriate. Yes,
Yeah.
Sandy?
Frank, are you saying to remove some of the windows?
No, I'm saying we're on the second elevation of the windmill, rather than a window, if it's not going to be occupied, just not make it a window. Make it an opening with a,
With a wood panel, with a wood
yeah,
shed.
a panel. That's, if you look at old windmills, that's
Yeah.
what you had.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's it. I think what I'd like to ask, this is me personally, to ask the applicant, you know, would you consider coming back with some changes to it at this particular point?
Well, Mr. Jennings, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jennings is online, and he, unfortunately, it's kind of difficult for me to have a
I'm
quiet
sorry.
moment to him.
I apologize.
That's all right. But he can certainly chime in. I appreciate Mr. Burlingame's comment about the fact that we have done, and several of you made a
positive comments, which we appreciate, but Ms. Burlingham's comments in particular about applicants regularly getting some slack on non-public visages, I think is important here. It strikes me that the issues which I have heard, the dormers on the salt box, the window on the rear of the salt box, are those which are not visible to the public and don't really involve loss of historic materials. I guess my concern is that having heard the positive comments, I wouldn't want the ideal to be considered the enemy of the extremely well thought out and considered proposal which we have brought to you. Could it be better? Anything can be better.
Yes.
Lawyers can be better. Even historical commissions can be better.
We do have an opening for another alternate.
But, you know, my sense is that, knowing Tom and Michelle as I do, and knowing Tom McNeil and the Hutker team, they will certainly consider what you have asked. On the other hand, having spent about 3 years working on the project, we haven't yet filed with ZBA because we wanted to see if there were concerns here. I don't know how long it would take you to come up with responses.
Not very long.
And your next hearing is
On the 20th, February 20th.
February 20th. Mr. Jennings, if you're still with us, would you, being the cooperative sort that you are, would an extension until February 20th, in light of the commission's support and inclination not to impose a demolition delay, could we come back on February 20th?
Hi, Bill, can you hear me? This is Tom.
Yes.
And hello to everybody on the commission. I think that's perfectly fine. Michelle and I care very deeply about this property and this community, and we want to get it right. We want the people on the commission to not just feel okay about it, but to love it. So I think this is thoughtful feedback. I think some of the requested elements will be easier to address than others. I think shaving a foot off, given the elements that we've discussed here, I would frankly hope for some leeway on that, and on the dormers and on the windows and on the consideration of the windmill. I think that's all thoughtful feedback, and I think we can go back, incorporate that, and then have another iteration with the commission.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Chairman, I don't ordinarily get lucky in life, but having Tom and Michelle Jennings is an example of where I did. Having them as clients is an example of where I did. So we would come back to you on February 20th with revisions that Mr. Neal can make. And we appreciate you having found the property of the structures to be historic, and we want to continue to work with you to enhance them for a couple hundred years to come. So we'd ask that you continue this until February 20th.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Jennings?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, my voice is a little faint.
Did I meet with you on the property about a year or so ago?
You did.
It was more. Time flies. It was more than a year ago. It was shortly after we bought it. But yeah, we walked through the inside and the outside.
Right,
and
exactly.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to meet with you on Monday, but I was previously occupied. All right, good. So
Yeah, I wasn't there either. I have COVID, so I'm staying away from everybody. But hopefully on the 20th, I'll be able to come down to Chatham and can join the team in the next meeting with all of you.
Well, we really appreciate your cooperation.
Frank, could I just
I'm sorry?
beat this horse a little longer, that Mr. Litchfield, my approval would be conditioned on these new plans having some dates on them. The front page, That are yeah, I understand realistic. that. The actual submission on the very first page says dated February 6th. So we were aware when we submitted them to you of what day we would be heard.
But it says February 6, 2023.
That's a typographical error. It was designed for today.
And then there's something on the information we just got that says December 18th, 2023.
That's when they were electronically filed.
Okay, but the pages,
Yep, I understand
Do something
exactly,
with
Mr.
that.
Lear, and
Okay,
Mr. McNeil will attend to that.
Because I
Why
have
don't
to
we-
sign off on the plans because Frank's not going to be here, so I'm not going to just toss it out there.
Why don't we make it simple in that only resubmit the pages that you change?
Okay.
Bob, you okay with that?
Yes, but well, yes, I mean, the approval, yes, I mean,
We
yes,
have a
we'll do it
habit,
that way.
we have a habit or our process, the reason for this is, once we approve the determination, to make sure there's proper communication between the Historical Commission and the Building Department, the chairman, or in this case, be Bob, signs off all the drawings. So when you file your building permit, this is going to be a difficult one, he looks at your construction drawings versus what you have here. So I think if we have a separate subset of the changes, it's going to be a lot easier for Christina to make sure we're all consistent.
We appreciate that, and we'll, obviously, there's going to be about 4 sets of approvals, because in addition to the commission, this commission, the Conservation Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Board of Health are all going to be involved. So we'll have multiple plans, but we'll have them all dated.
You don't have a date for zoning yet, do you?
We do not.
Yeah, but I guarantee you, usually the Historical Commission comments to the zoning board, and I was sure with just these minor things, we'd have a very positive.
We appreciate that very much. And
Yeah,
just
because-
as we appreciate your time this morning.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, we need a motion, sorry, just clarification,
Comment
yes.
that I'd like to make. I think from what I gather, and certainly with me, the lopping off of the foot, to me, means virtually nothing, because we're redesigning something we don't even know whether that foot was 8 inches or minus 3 inches. We're guessing. And the trade-off is that if we don't let you lop off the foot, then we're creating a substantial issue for you and the owners, because you've got to find that space somewhere else. And that's maybe making a bathroom much smaller, making a living room inappropriate or something. And I think the trade-off is really important here, that lop off your foot.
Okay,
And so you don't have to go through all those other expenses to try to find that foot somewhere else, which is, in the long run, isn't going to amount to much.
Yeah.
And I think that as far as the rear of the property, in my attitude is that you've done a marvelous job of trying to preserve this, not only preserve the house, but improve the neighborhood, improve a very, very important part of Chatham, and I appreciate all of the work you've put in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
I think if you make make it look like you did something to the rear of the back of the house, that would go a long way. You have my support today, but you'll certainly have it tomorrow. I mean, at the next meeting, if you just take a look at the back of the house.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, please.
yeah, hold on one second before the motion. I think there's some members of the public out there. You have some people? Nobody? Okay, I saw a lot of names before. There's nobody, there's no one online who would like to speak for the application or against it?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, fine, I'm sorry, I saw names before. Okay, hold on, Cindy. Yeah, the motion that I think at this particular point is just to adjourn the application to the next meeting. Is that what you were making, Sandy? Go for it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that application number 24-002 be continued to the meeting, this Chatham Historical Commission meeting on February 20th, 2024.
Thank you. We have a second?
2024?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said 2024.
Oh, I thought you said 2024.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, you're having a conversation? What's it? Was there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? All right, we're going to take a roll call on the continuation. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Steve? Stephanie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you
and I
very
really
much. Thank you so
appreciate your
much.
presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Mr. Jennings.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thanks to all of you.
All right, we have a couple of quick things.
I gotta leave.
You have to leave.
I have to leave 15 minutes ago.
Well, all right. We have a couple of all right, we are going to take a 5-minute brief recess, 5 minutes. Control room, is that okay? Thank you very much. I appreciate the comments. It was a good meeting, guys. All right. All right, welcome back. This is continuing the February 6, 2024 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. I will note that members Stephanie Hamilton and alternate member Robert Stevens had to leave, but we will continue. We do have a quorum. There are no actions going to be taken, just discussion at this particular point, but I'd like to continue if we may. We do have an administrative review ratification necessary. This was 239 Stage Harbor Road. Who looked at that? Was that
I think it was.
Don and you? Okay.
Bob, yes.
So can I have a motion to approve the previous administrative review, ratify it?
So moved.
Okay, this is 239 Stage Harbor Road. Second? Was that a second?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Steve. Okay, so this is to validate or ratify a previously administrative review. Okay, roll call, Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Stephanie? Oh, Stephanie's not here. Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Just to name it to the public, this administrative review process is working. It allows us to take care of very small changes that don't require the applicant to put up a full application and come before the commission. The only other thing I wanted to do was just quickly, still waiting for the town to hire a new principal planner so we could proceed with the amendments to the demolition delay bylaw to address the neglect to the future. And the only other thing I really would like to do is the preservation awards. What I say I'd like to do is, everybody has a copy of them, okay? I believe there's like 4 or 5 applications, and we've kind of changed in the past. At one time, you know, we used to have the full commission vote on them, but we got away from that when we ran into problems, and you're basically delegating the approval to Janet and myself as the members of the commission, or committee, 2 from the Historical Commission, 2 from the HBDC, and 2 from the Historical Society. And I think it's worked in the last few years. So, but I'd like to continue. But that's not without me asking input from you. So what I'd like to ask, we have a meeting on Friday, I believe, Janet, in which we will be reviewing the applications, and I don't know if we're going to vote yes or no, but not. But if you could take a look at the applications and give some opinions, and back to Janet and myself, just by email, I think it's fine. I don't think we're violating any laws, because this is not an official, application from that point of view. My own, just to give you my own 2 cents quickly, I think there's 3 or 4 which are pretty good, and 2 which suspect, which I don't think meet all of the requirements, and that's 38 Pond Lane and 894 Main Street. But I think the others deserve some review and some potential recognition. If you guys can take a look at them and get back to Janet and myself before Friday, it would be appreciated. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I think this application for the Shore Road property is absolutely ridiculous. This is not preservation. This was a total demolition of an old house and then a replacement with a new modern house. That's not what the Preservation Awards were originally formed for, and I don't think it should even be considered.
You know, you should have more opinions. Well, now we get the, I didn't want to go through them now, but we could. You got it. I got it. Did you get that, Janet? Okay. All right. So having said that, John, did that whole thing get demolished 100%, if I recall?
100%. They took it down to the ground, and they claim they saved some of the materials from the house. Well,
yeah,
that's not shown here.
Okay, I don't want to really, thank you very much. I think we all have a firm grasp of the obvious on this one. But, but there are a couple other which are suspects, so I would really appreciate you, taking some time. You probably take a 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, and get back to Janet and I. I do appreciate it. The last thing, quite honestly, is I did put together one more time the annual report. You do have a copy of it. And, Excuse me? Thank you very much. And I think from my perspective, just something to remind each other and the members of the public, maybe the two people who are watching, you know, we had 63 applications in 2023. 63, that's ridiculous, Don. I mean, when you think about all the years we've been on the commission and the number, and that compares to 23 or 22 the year before. So it is a problem. And I would like to ask the members of the commission and the public, if somebody's interested, we do have a second alternate position, and we could use somebody, you know, to fill in, because it's possible some of us are going to be moving on. That's it. I'm not going to belabor it anymore. If anybody else has any other comments? Okay. Look, a motion for adjournment?
So move.
All right.
Second.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, a roll call and adjournment. If no members of the public have anything to add, or? Nope. Thank you very much. Bob?
Approve.
Steve?
Approved.
Don?
Approved.
Sandy?
Approved.
Janet?
Approve.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.